I'm here with Dale and Chris Hansen, and we're at their house. And this is the first time, I was just talking to you earlier, is this the first time you've been interviewed together?
Yes, I think so.
Wow.
I hope so.
I mean, first and only.
First and last. First and last, yeah.
Well, okay, so I would say, Dale, tell us a little bit about yourself, but I want to actually get the podcast done. So when did you first meet Chris?
1977. I was a sportscaster in Omaha, Nebraska, my first TV job at KMTV. And I was doing the weekend show. And there was a guy named Jim Kelter. I'll never forget it. I will never forget it. Jim Kelter comes running upstairs after the 6 o'clock newscast and said, "You're not going to believe the young woman running camera." So I walked downstairs. She had on a copper tone satin blouse.
It was velvet.
With chocolate brown slacks and mini high heel shoes. And I said, I will start dating this woman by the end of the month, guaranteed. And I won $80. Only to find out it cost me like $3.5 million.
That's right.
Exactly.
I won the 80 and lost about $3.5 million ever since.
What did you think when you how did you first meet Dale, or where did you first see him?
Well, he was the weekend sportscaster, and I was running camera. I did camera and lighting at Channel 3 in Omaha, and was the floor crew, floor manager, did all that. And he was, I don't know if I can say ass on TV or not.
Yeah, you just did.
But I just did. I thought he was kind of an ass, frankly.
And that's what I liked about her.
Or maybe I should say jerk. That's a better word.
Yeah, say jerk.
Jerk.
Yeah.
He was more.
You can't edit all this, right?
He really was kind of a jerk. And I mean, just egotistical, thought a lot of himself.
Me?
Yes, you.
Me?
And I thought, but he was very handsome, very handsome.
In my day.
Yeah, he was very handsome.
In my day. I was stunning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
in my
I mean,
day I was stunning.
He was very handsome, and I mean, he had a lot of, he would just talk to you, and he had those eyes. I always said, he had these eyes when we went to dinner for one of our first dates that would look at you and just make you melt. It really was. He had a great personality. He was funny, just like he is now. He's funny.
So what was your first date?
Was it
Robin
Robin
Hood's.
Hood's? The restaurant,
Yeah.
Robin Hood's.
The actual date, we went up to, there was a place called the Brothers Lounge that we all the media and everybody used to hang out at. And I think we went up to Brothers Lounge for a drink after the show, like everybody did. And then our first so-called date was Robin Hood's
Yeah, Robin
for
Hood's
dinner.
restaurant.
And
that's when he looked at me across the table, and I just melted. He had the best eyes.
did I mention I was stunning
He
in
was
my day?
stunning.
Yeah.
Stunning.
It's been a very hard 45 years. It's been all downhill since then, but
So you went on your first date, and then how long did y'all date before he popped the question, and how did he pop
oh
the
my
question?
goodness, I was hoping you wouldn't ask
Well,
that.
it was
Yeah.
off and on. We dated off and on. I mean, I dated another guy for a while.
A lot of
Two
guys.
other guys maybe
Yeah.
for a while.
Yeah.
Kind of off and on, and then he got a job. Then he lost his job.
In,
was fired.
in
I was
Omaha?
fired.
Which he's been fired several times in Omaha, and got the job in Dallas. And he was in Dallas for a long time, and I came back for their Christmas party. He invited me to come back for the Channel 4 Christmas party, and I came there. And the general manager at the time said, "Dale, what can I do to make you happy here?"
Yeah.
And he said, "Hire her." So I got a job at Channel 4 doing, again, camera, floor manager, lighting.
So did y'all get to work together?
Well, a little bit,
a
yeah.
little bit, yeah.
Well, except for I had to be to work by 6 in the morning. 'Cause I
Right.
did the morning shift. He was just coming home from partying when I would be. He was just
Yeah.
coming home from partying
Well,
when I would have to go to work.
And this is the story that she has always hated, but I guess we'll just as well share it. I was usually coming in about the time she was leaving to do the morning
I'd have
show.
to leave about 4.
And I walked in one morning after a rather long night at Louis', one of my favorite places that I used to hang out. And I had bought her a diamond ring, and I was planning on asking her to marry me. And I was thinking of all these really cool ways to do it. And as I'm falling into bed, after having been overserved by an irresponsible bartender, I threw the diamond ring at her in the bathroom. And I said, here. And she says, not like this.
I don't want to
Not
remember
like
it this
this. I
way."
don't want to remember it like this. And I said, that's as good as it's going to get. I fell asleep, and she still married me.
Wow.
And she has complained about it for 39
Not that,
years.
the engagement.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, he asked
she has
me, yeah.
complained about the engagement for 39
I always ask
years.
everybody, so
Yeah.
how did you get engaged? And you hear all the romantic, in a cake, or I took him someplace special.
I was in New
and-
York at Times Square on New Year's Eve.
Stop it.
It was great.
This
Sorry.
is our interview. We don't want to hear about it. Yeah. I don't want to hear
That
any
sounds
more good
romantic.
stories. I don't want to
Right.
hear any more good
Right,
stories.
right.
But,
Cut it. Cut that
I
out.
mean, I tried to prepare her for what our life was going to
That's
be
true.
like.
That's
and
true.
and
I
I
should have
think,
known.
Yeah, I mean, I think in many ways it did somewhat prepare her for the fact that I'm a jerk.
So how long were you engaged?
Well, not long. I mean,
It's like a
technically
year,
engaged.
maybe
yeah.
a year or something like that.
We were together off and on, as she said. We were together off and on for about
well,
5 years.
we met in
Yeah.
'77. We weren't
Yeah.
married until '82.
Right.
So, and
It's
y'all
like-
moved from Omaha, Nebraska to Dallas during that time. So you got married in Dallas.
Right, at the DeGoyer Estate, their
Beautiful,
sunken garden
yeah.
outside.
I almost
because
missed
he
the
had
wedding.
the job at Channel 4, and I was still in Omaha. So then when I got the job at Channel 4, then I moved.
Well, I was playing golf. We were doing that. My parents were in town. All the family was in town. So they needed me to get out of the condo that we were sharing at that time.
When we got married, the day we
So I went to play golf that morning. And,
The day of your wedding,
The
you
day
went
of our
to play
wedding.
golf.
And then we went back to a guy named George Cobb's house. Who was a great friend of ours. And we started playing pool. There's about 6 of us. And we started playing pool and having a few drinks and gambling a little bit. And I literally almost missed the start of the wedding. And my dad wanted to beat me up. And I was 32 at the time, and I'll never forget. I come flying into the condo, and he was screaming at me about how irresponsible I was, which again I think should have prepared her.
You had a lot of red flags.
But
Yeah,
I
I
made
know,
it.
I did.
Yeah, I made it though. I mean, it was close. I don't deny that. It was close, but we made it. It was a beautiful wedding. My daughter was one of her bridesmaids. She unfortunately started breaking down, crying during the deal
because she realized her mom and
Yeah.
dad weren't going to get
Yeah.
back together.
Yeah.
Her mom at the time.
Yeah.
So she went off crying, but it all worked out fine. So, and his son was a groomsman. Yeah.
Yeah.
So take me back to, let's go back to both of your childhoods. You're from Logan, Iowa.
Logan, Iowa. Yeah.
And
Population about that. It's like the Mayberry of the Midwest. Maybe 1,000 people in the town, if you count half the farmers. 64 kids in my graduating class, the largest class they've ever had. And they had to consolidate with another town to get to 64. But Magnolia is only like 100 people, so they brought 3 or 4 kids, something like that. But I loved it. I mean, it really was like the Mayberry of the Midwest. Nobody locked their doors. Keys are always in the car. And I was a small town guy. She was the city girl. Yeah. And now we've kind of flipped roles. I would argue we flipped roles. She always wanted to be the farm girl, always wanted a horse and the like. But she grew up in downtown Omaha, basically. And I had a little bit of a farm background. She's the city girl. Now she's the farm girl.
Kind of reminds me of the reverse of Green Acres. He's the lady, the city,
I'm Zsa Zsa Gabor.
She's Zsa Zsa Gabor, and I'm whatever. What was his name?
Eddie Albert.
Eddie Albert.
Eddie
Yeah,
Albert,
I'm Eddie
yeah.
Albert.
oh my goodness. So take me back to your childhood. Where did you grow up?
Well, I was born in Davenport, Iowa, but I grew up in Omaha since I was like 6 months old, Omaha, Nebraska. So, and what's funny is, it's kind of strange. We could be like distantly related, I think. Possibly.
What, really?
Well,
We're just bringing that out now.
my mom's, my grandfather's family, his sisters and everything, they're all buried in Logan, Iowa, in the cemetery where Dale's from. And they all lived. In fact, there were distant relatives that lived up the street from you. They're probably my great aunts or something
great.
like that. So, or cousins or something.
So
but
we're cousins,
We
is
could,
what
we
you're
could
saying.
be, yeah.
Yeah, okay, great, fantastic.
May have to research that in some of his retirement time off.
Yeah,
May have
yeah.
to start doing
Yeah, I
the
don't think so,
genealogy.
no. But it's not an issue. Not an issue. That was really kind of the deal. I was divorced. Her parents hated me. I was when we met. I think I was like 28, something like that. She's like 21. She's just still finishing up college.
He had 2 children.
I had 2 children.
No.
Yeah, wasn't going to have any more. So I remember I went to dinner with her and her mom and dad, and they weren't real happy about their daughter's choices.
But they never
But
said
did I
anything.
mention I was stunning in my day? I was stunning, so she didn't have much control over it. She didn't have it.
So I'm assuming that your parents eventually grew to love him.
No.
Well, my mom did say she didn't think it would last.
Yeah, well,
But
didn't
then
say less. She told my mom on her wedding night, I give it 6 months tops.
Well, and I don't
Now,
know, is your parents
her
really
dad
thought it
her
would
dad
last
died her dad died young. He always had heart
He was like
problems.
46 when he passed away.
And Larry was in the I think Larry kind of came around only because Larry was in the hospital waiting to die, and the doctors told him that it was going to be a very short time. Larry was a Nebraska season ticket holder for decades.
Huge Nebraska football fan.
Big Nebraska
Huge.
football fan. So I was doing the Tom Osborne show in KMTV in Omaha, Nebraska. So I called Tom, and I asked him if he would just mind calling Larry and just talk to him for a little bit.
Best thing he ever did. That was just...
Tom not only called Larry, he talked to him for like 3 hours. Told the assistant coaches, I'm not going to be at practice this afternoon. You guys take it, right? Larry then lived for like 4 months. I mean, he was walking around. The nurse was like, yeah, Tom called. I'm talking to Tom about the coming to. And he was the king of the floor. Because Tom Osborne is a saint in Nebraska. And apparently he granted Larry like 3 to 4 months of extra time on Earth.
It was incredible.
He lived forever. I mean, it just picked him up like crazy. And I then called Tom Osborne, one of my favorite parts of that story. I called Tom and I said, did you ever get a chance to call Larry Harold? He said, yeah, I talked to him. I said, how long? He goes, not long. I said, maybe 3 hours? Did you skip practice that day? And he goes, well, I was happy to do it. And that's why Tom Osborne, to me, is always one of the greatest men. He was a great coach, but he's a better man. He's an absolutely better man. So her dad somewhat comes around, I think, and unfortunately we didn't get to share that because he did die before we
He
were
passed
married.
away in 80 and we were married in 82.
82.
So.
But then her mom still wasn't buying into it. And then on our wedding night in 1982, we had this little reception at an apartment clubhouse. That's all we had. She's running
We
around.
had the radio playing. That was
Yeah,
our music.
our music was a radio station. She's running around screaming at the waiters, do not open another bottle until you finish the other one.
Because every
'cause we're
bottle that
paying
they
you.
opened, we had to pay for. I mean, we had no money then.
Telling people you don't need another sandwich. You've already eaten plenty. I mean,
It's over. The party's
It was
over.
incredibly embarrassing. But her mom then tells my mom, I give it 6 months tops. And it's been 39 years.
40 years next year.
And what's the day?
June 12th.
June 12th. Wow, 1982. Well,
Yeah,
congratulations.
yeah. Thank you.
So it'll be
Thank you.
39 years in.
It was
It
39, just 39 years.
Just turned 39.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, Dale, what did your parents do for a living?
My dad was a truck driver, and he had his own small trucking company. He had 2 big trucks, and he hauled freight out of Omaha to all the small towns in Iowa. And had a guy named Shorty Thompson work for him. So Shorty would go to Omaha, pick up fill up the one truck. And for some reason, it was always full. I don't know how that worked out, but it was like almost always full. And then my dad would drive the Logan Woodbine Dunlap route in the mornings to unload that freight, while Shorty would take the empty truck back. My mom was a hairdresser and a beautician, did a lot of the blue hairs. She had one style. It was just kind of that bucket head with blue hair, and
So she knew all the town
but
gossip.
she was good at it.
Yeah, that's
she was
right.
good at it.
Hairdresser, yep.
And so, I mean, I always thought we were. I mean, it was upper middle class. I mean, something like that. My dad had an airplane. He was a pilot. Had a Beechcraft Bonanza.
Have you ever wanted to do that?
No, goodness no. I think maybe that's because I flew with him and I wasn't crazy about it. But no, he wanted me to take over the trucking company, and that was always one of our big conflicts for a long time. That I was bouncing around from job to job to job, chasing this dream that I had, and he always wanted me to take over the trucking company. And every time I would get fired, he'd say, "Dale, it's not working. You've tried it, you've been in radio, it's not working, come on home, take over the trucking company." Then I got into television in Omaha and I got fired. He said, "Okay, all right, now you've done radio, now you've done TV, it's not working, come on home." I said, "Dad, I'm going to Dallas." I came to Dallas, I got fired at Channel 4. He said, okay, now you've been in radio, you've been in television, you've been to Dallas. You're not going to make it. It's time for you to come home and take over the trucking company. And then I got hired at Channel 8. I said, Dad, look what Channel 8's paying me now. And my dad said, son, I never doubted you for a moment. And he said, I knew you'd make it big. I'm like, no, you didn't.
Isn't
No,
that
you didn't.
how it is? Well, I was wondering what your parents did for a living and what made you think that you ever wanted to be on TV, or did you?
Oh, I always did. Johnny Carson, primarily, for whatever reason. I was a kid. I always wanted to be a disc jockey, was the main thing. I listened to the radio differently than most kids. I listened to the disc jockey instead of the music. And Johnny Carson was just like my hero, my
And
idol.
didn't his
you know.
grandmother live up the street
Right
from you?
across the street. Kit Carson.
Kit
and,
Carson.
I forget what her name was. It was Mrs. Carson to me. Lived right across the street from us. And Johnny Carson's grandparents. And when Johnny was going from New York to L.A. doing his show for a couple of weeks, he would always stop. Mrs. Carson was in a nursing home in Blair, Nebraska. And Mrs. Carson would call my mom, have her hair done. Mom would never take me. No one was allowed in the facility when Johnny was going to be there.
It was very secret, wasn't it?
Oh, very
Yeah.
secret. And I would always want to go, but my mom would go over, fix Mrs. Carson's hair. Johnny would fly into Omaha, drive up to Blair, which is like 20 miles, visit his grandmother, and then off he'd go. We thought for years she was just nuts because no one in Logan, Iowa has a grandson that's Johnny Carson. But her lemonade and cookies were to die for, so we humored the old lady, only to find out years later that she really was Johnny Carson's grandmother. And it was incredible. And that kind of started my interest, if you will. He had a show called Who Do You Trust? That was one of his first shows on TV. And before he got the Tonight Show. And it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and Mrs. Carson would call all the kids in after school. And there'd be like 8 or 9 of us sitting in her living room watching her grandson. And we're like, this lady is off the rocker. But more lemonade, please.
Literally,
You know. And I then just became fascinated by it, never thinking I could do it. That's why I had 4 different jobs before I got into broadcasting, period, because I knew I couldn't do it. My mom said I couldn't do it. My dad said I couldn't do it. So I had all these, bill collector, food salesman, employment agency counselor, and I got fired from all of them, and because I hated it. And then I finally just went off to this kind of a rip-off school, but it
Career
worked for me.
Academy, late
Career
at night.
Academy, yeah.
It used to be late at night back in the old days. Late at night, they'd have a listing, Career Academy, and you could get every degree you wanted to.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I go to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and the guys.
Toothpaste salesman.
Yeah.
You get a degree in toothpaste selling.
The ads on they said, if you sound like this, you can make millions of dollars in the fabulous world of broadcasting. And I'm thinking, I think I sound like that. So I go to this school, and on first floor was like hotel management, second floor was flight attendants, third floor were dental hygiene assistants, fourth floor I think was toothpaste
selling,
salesman,
yeah.
and they were like on the top floor. And for some of us it worked, not many. But I got a job as a disc jockey for $94 a week in Newton, Iowa. And I'm thinking, I'm on my way. Yeah. And then about 3 weeks later, I realized this is the worst job known to man. I can't possibly do this. I hate this job. And luckily for me, the news anchor quit for the radio station. And John Carl was the owner of the station. He said, would you like to do news? He said, I know you hate spinning records. And I really did. I thought, why not? I mean, I just, 24, 25. And I thought, yeah, I mean, what else can I do?
I think I was, 16, 15?
16, probably,
15
right, yeah. And, but it just clicked. So I'm doing news and sports, and it just clicked. And then I was off and running. And then I got one job after another, eventually led to the Omaha TV job, which I always thought I wanted to do, but I didn't know if I could or not. Same thing. I applied for a job, and I've always just been incredibly lucky. I've never denied this. I have this knack for being in the right place at the right time. And I swear to you, this is a true story. I walk into KMTV just on a lark, just like I've tried every place else. The guy agrees to meet with me for whatever reason. As I'm sitting there, the weekend sportscaster quit. And he was so angry and so frustrated. He says, "So you like sports?" And I was applying for a news job. And I said, "Yeah."
They said you needed an education for
Well, I'd
news.
never gone to college. And he said, you need to have a college degree to work here. And as I'm getting ready to leave, the phone rings, and Mark Gatier was the news director. Dave Weber was the weekend sportscaster, and he quit. And then Mark Gatier says to me, and she's made fun of me forever about, "Would you like to do sports?" And I'm like, and I'm just looking for a job. I said, "Sure, yeah, I love sports." And I said, "But I thought you said everybody who works here has to have a college degree." He said, "Not to be a sportscaster. You don't need any education at all for that job." Yeah, and it's true. You really don't.
Well, you educate yourself. You're self-educated.
Somewhat, yeah.
So I was going to
So
ask
I
you,
applied, and here I am.
if you liked sports, I was going to ask, you were about to do the news, but then you got the sports.
Yeah.
Was that, did you all of a sudden think, oh my gosh, I got to study sports?
I did. I did for a while. I was a little bit concerned about. I mean, I've always been a sports fan, but no more so. I mean, I'm not like a Norm Hitzges or a Chuck Cooperstein or a Brad Sham. I don't know who batted second for the 1978 Rangers, nor do I care. So I was a little bit concerned about it. And then I realized, well, yeah, you can kind of figure it out. I mean, it's not like you. I'm sure that encyclopedic knowledge of sports probably helps on occasion. But now, for example, I mean, I've got guys who look it up for me. I mean,
We have Google.
I've got
We have
Google
Google.
now, right? But no, I did for a little bit, but no, it really hasn't ever been an issue. I think I've never denied that I'm a sports fan, but I'm not as I'm not Chuck Cooperstein, I'm not Norm Hitzges, I'm not Bob Sturm. All these guys that really do know it inside out and study it and read about it. No, I'm not that guy.
One thing that I thought was very interesting, your maiden name is Dallas. Is that true?
No, it's Harold.
Okay, cut that. I don't know why I saw that.
That would be
and
nice, but
Okay, so, okay.
We can change it if that would help the show.
well, it could be the Dallas Times Herald
Maybe sometimes.
because it was Herold.
No, you can cut that whole part.
You know the funniest thing about this woman was a mouse when I married her. No, she knows this.
Now what does
He always
mean
says
about
he,
mouse?
he
I created
formed
her.
me.
I mean, I created
I
her.
was very quiet
Yeah.
and shy.
Yeah. Oh,
Which
my
I don't-
goodness.
And then I ended up with him. That's
It
what's
was the
strange.
best thing. There were two things. The main reason I was attracted to her so much, other than she was stunning, I might add, and I did have $80 riding on the outcome, but she would go and to this day, she's like a 2-drink minimum. If the bar or the club that we go to has a 2-drink minimum, I know I'm going to have to drink the second half of the second drink, because she does like a drink and a half.
Right,
Forever.
I do.
She never has like a full second drink, and she never talks, which people who are around me
But
kind of
how
know.
can I?
See what I'm saying? I created that.
But
I created
how
that.
can I?
And
I just sit and go, yes.
Some people
and look
have
at him
said.
adoringly, and yes.
Some people have said that I talk a lot. I find that hard to believe, but I'm told I've heard that. She didn't talk. So she would just sit there, again, looking like $800 million. And I knew I was going to get out for like buying 2 drinks, and I was going to have to drink the second one, which was another perk. And
I'm cheap.
I thought, this will work.
Cheap date.
This will work. She was a cheap date who didn't talk much. Now, 39 years later, she still doesn't drink much. I still have to finish the second drink, but I can't shut her up.
Well,
I've
you
created this monster who's funny. I mean, she's legitimately funny, and I think I deserve some props because I created it.
I think it's amazing.
Like Frankenstein. What are you,
this is-
Dr. Frankenstein?
This is my Frankenstein creation here.
I got to know you because you did the podcast with me for Smilecast,
right.
and I got to know about your love of horses.
Fun.
Well, she said after she finished that, I come home tonight. She's on the couch listening to the podcast copy of it when she got it. She goes, I am really good at this. I am really good.
Well, I did that because I'm never, how he's somewhat as egotistical, and I'm not. So it was funny. Mike Leslie, who lives over here, was in here, and I said, I'm really good. I think I was really good. So he died laughing. I go, I'm going to do. In fact, I think I said I'm going to do a Dale Hansen here. I'm really good.
Well, I got to know you and your love of horses, And how did that start? Is that what did your parents do when you were little? I mean, did that start?
Well,
from
my dad was an accountant for Eli Lilly, a land co. And then my mom was a housewife. And I always loved horses. And of course, we couldn't afford them. I lived in the city. And I collected, in fact, I found the other day, scrapbooks. Anytime there was a picture of a horse in the newspaper or anything, I always made scrapbooks. I just loved horses. My aunt in Iowa had a horse. We'd go twice a year and go visit her, and I'd ride. And never had one, just loved him. And then Dale and I were married. And the first Christmas we were married, he got me a set of golf clubs. He wanted me to play golf.
Let me take it from here.
Hogan executive golf clubs.
Oh, you remember that?
Of course.
Yeah.
Purple golf shoes.
Yeah.
Beautiful golf shoes, and the whole outfit.
Bag, head covers.
Really nice, expensive golf clubs. So, and I said, why are the golf handles not purple like my shoes so everything matches? I never used those clubs since then.
No, I grabbed the club. I said, "That's it." I said, "Put them back." Why are my handles not purple to match my shoes? I went, "Oh, yeah, this is the dumbest thing I've ever done."
Well, he always wanted to teach me how to play.
Well, I really didn't, quite honestly.
Then the next year, he got me my first horse. He surprised me. I'll never.
Well, it wasn't the next year. It was shortly after that.
I'll never forget this.
Yeah.
He said, it was on Christmas Eve. He said, "Let's take a drive." And I'm like, okay. We drive, and we're driving out in the country out to, actually, Pilot Point.
Mm-hmm.
We're driving out there, and I thought, what are we doing? And then it hit me. And I said, Are you getting me a horse? Because that was my dream, to have a horse since I was a little kid. And he said, yeah, we're going to go look at one. And of course, I just started bawling. And he goes, now, let me tell you this right away. He goes, we're going to go look at it.
Yeah.
We're not going to make a decision today. I want you to look at it and see if it's okay. Got to
get it vetted.
Don't get all excited. We need to get a vet check, all that stuff.
I had to negotiate a hard price.
We get there at Pilot Point. They pull the horse out of the stall. Literally, Dale says, how much?
No, I did not. I said, I'll take it.
I'll take it. How much? And we didn't have it vet checked. His name was Eridanus. I called him Danny. He was my first horse. He was chestnut, meaning like a light brown color, 4 white stockings, a white blaze. He was gorgeous. And didn't have him vet checked or anything. He was only 4 years old, which for a first-time horse person is probably the wrong age to get because they're young. But anyway, he worked out, and he was my first horse. Lived to be like 24. So
I was doing the Cowboys games on the radio, and Mickey Abusi was in this Arabian club. And for whatever reason, she had mentioned Arabians somewhere along the line.
Well, my great uncle had Arabians in Florida, and I just thought they were beautiful.
So I told Mickey, I said, I want to buy Chris an Arabian horse. And I said, how much are they? And he said, oh, they're like, $4,000 or $5,000. I said, okay, that sounds about right. And I what color? I said, well, chestnut, I think. And he goes, do you want any chrome on it? And I said, oh, yeah, I love the white stockings. And he goes, okay, you want like a 4 to 5 year old horse, young, to grow up with her, $4,000 to $5,000. You want white stockings and a blaze. And I thought, you're not going to paint this thing, are you? I mean, sounds like give me one.
Yeah, that's what it was like.
It took a couple of months. We found the horse in Minnesota. They said, well, we'll ship it down. I said, well, what if I don't want it? They said, don't worry about it. They'll take it back. So they shipped the horse down from Minnesota. And then, like I said, we drive up there, and I said, let me handle
Beautiful,
this.
yeah.
And the horse comes out of the stall, and I said, I'll take him. He said, we haven't even talked about price. I said, I can afford it. I said, what about vet? He said, tell you what. And then they finally agreed, you take him back, and if you have him vetted, and if there is an issue.
Great, yeah.
And I think they would have. But
we never did.
He was a fabulous horse.
And you've been doing shows. You ride in horse shows?
Yes, I have a purebred Arabian now that I ride.
That was that $3.5 million I was talking about that I've lost.
Yeah, I've been riding showing since I was probably 30 or 32, something like that. I had my first horse I was 26, and then had him at home for a while, and then I started showing. It was probably about 30 when I started showing. So it's fun. It's fun.
The Lovely Mrs. Hanson.
Yeah.
How did that happen? How did that name come about?
That's a good question, because I've never asked that either.
I think I stole that from Frank Luxa, quite honestly, and I'm sorry that you brought that up. Frank Luxa was a great sports writer in Dallas for years and years and years, and he always talked about the Lovely Mrs. Luxa, and that just cracked me up. And I was just kind of doing it as a compliment to Frank, and then people started picking up on it, and we'd be out together someplace, and they go, "So this is the lovely Mrs. Hanson."
Well, what's funny
and I
is-
go, "No, this is my girlfriend. This isn't the lovely."
I went to the pharmacy one day in Waxahachie, and I'm sick. I have a baseball cap on. I'm standing there, and I said, "Yes, a prescription for Christine Hansen," and they go. Somebody behind me go, "Are you the lovely Mrs. Hanson?" I go, "Not today." I was like, "Don't look at me."
You got to live up to that now.
I know you do.
I would just,
A lot of pressure.
It was just a little bit of a joke that I threw out there, kind of a little bit of a shout out to Frank Luxley, who I was a big fan of his writing for years.
I think it's very endearing.
And
I think it
and then
was
she
meant to
liked
be.
it, and I was kind of stuck with it.
It's very nice.
I've kind of had to go with it, no matter what she looks like. I've had to stick with it, so it's just.
It's the lovely
pretty much-
Mrs. Hanson,
pretty
come
much
hell or
the
high
whole
water.
deal.
Doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, Dale, in your sportscasting, you started to go a little bit unplugged. How did all that, when did it turn a little bit from sports to where you felt you had a platform to say things that maybe weren't as sports?
Well, Michael Sam is where it actually made that initial into social commentary, if you will. I had been writing commentaries long before Michael Sam. Not many people noticed. We didn't have the internet back in the 80s when I started writing.
Well, you didn't. There probably was around.
Well, no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Al Gore didn't invent it for
I guess
several
80s,
years.
no. He just got rid of his flip phone recently.
Yeah, thank you. And
I wish I could still have a BlackBerry.
this is my segment right here. Let me
Okay,
take
go
it from here. And we're going to run out of time. No, but I'm saying I was writing. I wrote a lot of sports commentaries in the '80s, early '90s, but always very sports driven. Whether it was the SMU scandal, whether it was something the Cowboys had done, which they did a lot of in the day. And then one night, and it's still the most remarkable story to me. Sean Hamilton, my producer and sports director, comes to me and says, "We don't have a reporter working tomorrow night," meaning the Monday night. And he said, "I was hoping you could write a commentary to fill the time, just to fill the time." And I said, "About what?" And he said, "Well, I was thinking Michael Sam." And I'm thinking, well, I hadn't even really given it any thought. And he said, "Well, think about it, and if you can." So I'm driving home, and I'm listening to all the talk radio stations, and I'm getting madder and madder at all the nonsense that I'm hearing, in my opinion. And I wrote it, and I was really pretty happy with it. I was pretty proud of it. And I go into the station and I read it to Sean, and he goes, yeah, I think that's okay. And I'm like, okay, So I read it to a very liberal friend of mine, and he goes, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I went, fine? So I read it to a third guy, and the third guy says, yeah, I think that should work. That should work. And I'm like, it's okay, it's fine, and it should work. And I'm thinking it's a little bit better than that. And it turned out to be a little bit better than that. And next thing I know, it's gone viral, which I swear to you, I've told the story before.
Which he didn't know what that meant.
I had no idea what that meant. And then I started getting emails from all over the world. And one thing leads to another, and it became the platform that I've really embraced for the most part for the last, 8-9 years. And I like sports. She always gets mad at me that I'm not as big a Cowboys fan as she is. And the reality is I watch sports differently, partly because of the job, partly because I've been doing it for so long. But at the end of the day, I don't care who wins or loses. I mean, I love sports. I'm watching golf, the golf tournament. The past week, I get all excited. I don't really care. One guy gets $1.2 million, the other guy gets 900,000. They'll survive somehow. But I still enjoy the theater of it. I love the drama of it. I haven't been what you would consider the traditional fan for a long time. And
You're not a cheerleader.
Not a cheerleader. And I'm kind of hoping to get back to that, as I get older and retire. But yeah, I just love the social commentaries more than anything I've done. And I really love the fact that some people don't. I embrace that. People in the station sometimes when the hate mail would start or the phones would start, they're like, "Oh, Dale, what do we do? Somebody's on the phone." And I'd pick up the phone and shut them down and laugh about something and move on. I don't care. I like it all. I wish everybody would agree with everything I said, but some reason they don't.
Well,
You
they
know?
always say if you're writing for everybody, you're writing for nobody.
Yeah.
The thing that
Well, and that's what a commentary is. It's controversial. People are either going to agree or not agree. To me, it's not a commentary if it's not.
I think, yes, and I think she's exactly right. I think any good commentary has to make people uncomfortable. Even if you agree with the commentary, it should make you uncomfortable that it needs to be said. And if you don't agree with it, that's even better. Hopefully it'll make you think a little bit.
Right.
I've never shied away from the controversy. Some people do, but
Right. I agree with
I
you.
embrace it.
Do you ever run anything, this is probably a dumb question,
I don't
run
know.
anything by her that you're a little iffy
Oh, I
about?
run everything
Oh,
by
yeah,
her. Yeah. She's an incredible sounding board. More so even in the sportscast itself. And she's changed some things that I've written over the years that, that's too harsh, that's too far.
Did you ever think of something that he hadn't thought of and brought it up and he spoke about it?
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, recently we kind of had something that I said you should do a commentary on, but for a later time.
Yeah. But no, she's been incredible. And I think, albeit a limited exposure to television that she did have, but she's an avid news watcher. And everybody at the station I've worked with for years knows this. I run it by her. And whether it's the typical sportscast that we're covering different stories, different events, if she likes it, then I know that I've done it right, or at least to my satisfaction. I've accomplished what I wanted. And then I write the commentaries, and she's liked some of them less than others. I have no doubt about that. But I think we're on the same wavelength most of the time.
You ever sit and watch him on TV at night and get nervous about what he's saying and what people might say?
Oh, yes. When
You
he was
get nervous
was it
for
Channel,
him.
Yeah, Channel 4, the Robin Gibbons thing. That whole that whole thing. I remember.
That was at Channel 8.
Was that a Channel 8?
Yeah, I just started at Channel 8.
I thought that was Channel 4. Anyway, yes. Oh, yes. That thing. I remember. I'm sitting doing stitchery, and he made this comment, and I'm like,
I made a joke.
No.
I made a joke, very offensive joke about Robin Gibbons and Mike Tyson, and caught a tremendous amount of grief for that.
And when you got home, you got grief.
As soon as I walked in the door, she's like, "What were you thinking?" And
yeah. Oh no, I'll do that sometimes.
yeah. Oh,
And I'll get
sometimes.
nervous.
I mean, she does that a lot. That. What were you thinking? And I thought, well, I thought it was funny. She goes, "Oh, I'm sure you did. It wasn't." And off we go. And so I knew. I mean, that's the other thing. I knew that joke, as funny as it was to me, didn't work, because I've said things that are offensive, and she'll just like, "Oh, tell him to get over it. That was funny." But she'll also tell me when I've crossed that line.
And he does. He's kind of got a strange sense of humor.
Right.
This is the most caring, one of the most caring men you'll ever meet. I mean, he's very caring, very sensitive. He cries watching television before I even think about crying. I mean,
Go ahead and tell her. I know you want to.
He was, years ago, I came home and he's on the couch and I hear this crying, all these snorting noises. And he's crying and he's watching the Waltons, and Grandpa had died on the Waltons.
Oh, yeah,
Incredibly sad.
That was awful.
Crying.
How could you not cry when Grandpa died?
And then another one.
Well, go ahead. I know. I thought you were going to tell the other one first.
No, this.
Well, this one is kind of
one
stupid,
really
I
gets you.
admit. But.
He sits there and he's got tears running down his face. I hear him snorting again, crying, and it was the Judds final concert. It was on TV. He's crying at the Judds.
Naomi
final,
and Winona.
Yes,
Yeah.
Judds final concert.
Well, that
I'm
was
like,
very sad.
Yeah, oh, yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was really hard. So
Who cannot look at Winona and Naomi and realize they may never sing together again?
No, here he goes.
Like,
See, I used to be a crier, but now I sit and look at him.
Yeah, she made-
I'm too looking at him going, okay, is he crying?
I've never.
That's what I love. He's very sensitive.
I ran
and people
from that.
People
No.
think he's a really tough man. He's not.
No,
He's not. He's
I'm-
very sensitive.
I'm
He
a
cares.
putty cat.
When people
I'm a putty cat.
when people do make comments on his commentaries, and it's funny. I said, Dale, those are few people, but he gets more hurt by those
Yeah.
comments than the good ones. I mean, he just talks about them all the time. Well, they said this. I go, don't worry about it.
It's
You had-
hard though
Yeah.
sometimes to not
Yeah,
have
he's
that
very
in the back of your
sensitive,
head.
and people don't think that about
What
him.
about this retirement coming up? Was that a joint decision? Had y'all talked about
No.
it for a long time?
No. You work until you die.
That was.
No.
She's not being funny. She's being truthful there. We had some very, very hard days. Very hard days. For a lot of the wrong reasons, quite honestly. But no, it wasn't. There was nothing joint decision about it. And
I mean, there is.
we
a part of
finally
me,
fought our
yeah.
way through it. I talked our way through it. But I mean, quite honestly, there were some heated moments.
But I have to sit down and think, and I have to tell you, if I have had friends say this, he has spoiled me to death. He has worked very hard. And I'm going to get teary-eyed here. He has worked very hard to give me the life that I have. Sorry about that. But
Grandpa's still dead. I mean,
now I'm crying. You're not supposed to cry. I mean, he gives me anything I want. Again, very spoiled. And I realize he can't spoil me anymore when he retires.
yeah. See, that's what made her cry. Because she still wants to be spoiled. She thinks we're going to be on food stamps.
But no,
you
he
know.
has worked very hard. He deserves to retire.
As I told her.
He
as I
deserves
told her,
to retire.
I think I deserve to
Yeah.
retire, and I think I want to retire.
Yeah.
I mean, I had
Definitely.
that typical buyer's remorse, after I made the announcement. And as I get closer to the day, I'm sure I'll probably have buyer's remorse again.
And it's weird. He had
but-
buyer's remorse, and I was
Yeah.
going, "Congratulations, you've made the
Yeah.
decision." And he's like, "But I don't know if I made the right choice." And
Yeah,
I'm going,
yeah.
"I'm finally
She kind of
for
went
it."
around to it, yeah.
Change is always uncomfortable.
Well, but I think but it really did frustrate me. I mean, legitimately angered me that I think her main concern was, in a positive way.
Yeah.
I mean, she deserves everything that I've been able to do without question. I've said that 1,000 times, but I feel like I've done enough. And it seemed to me that her only concern is that we wouldn't have enough money in retirement to live the life that we had been living. And that just really ticked me off. But as I told her, I said, if we don't have enough money to make you happy, I will be the guy at Walmart telling you the hammers are in aisle 7. I mean, I will be
Walmart
the
greeter.
Walmart greeter. Hammers are in aisle 7.
And all set groceries. How's that? sound?
Yeah,
I
well,
think what I see for y'all from being on the outside looking in, I see Dale an amazing, most phenomenal public speaker. You go out and do speeches.
I think I
and-
can.
Actually, I think
mean,
Oh,
I
I
can do
know you can.
That's
And
what I'm hoping to do. I mean, I've had a lot of different opportunities over the years, but I also want to kind of get into some. She's not as crazy about it as I am, but I'm fascinated by politics, and I'd like to get on the political.
And I'm not at all.
I'm not
So
going to go
he's-
out and I'm not going to go out and endorse candidates per se. Because you never quite honestly know who you might end up endorsing. And yet I do believe strongly in my causes, whether people agree or disagree. And I think there's a venue there and a platform that people would like to hear me speak. A couple of years ago, the state Democratic Party asked me to run for office. And in my own arrogance, I thought, well, I don't want to challenge Greg Abbott for governor. I mean,
He's thinking the top.
Ted,
The top.
Ted Cruz. I mean, I don't like Ted Cruz, but I can't beat Ted Cruz. But I'll take your call. I mean, I'll take your call. And so we're meeting, and they're all just slobbering on me that, boy, I could just be the new voice of Texas. I could lead the charge. I thought, okay.
Yeah, just wait.
And I said, so what office are we thinking about? They go, land commissioner. And I'm like, I don't even know what that is, They go, well, that's George P. Bush's job. And I'm like, you want me to run against George P. Bush for a job that I even have no idea what that is, And I think, as arrogant as this may be, I don't think they thought that I had a chance, nor did I care to have a chance to be land commissioner. But I think they thought that I might have had just a little bit of star power with my speaking abilities, that I could then rev up that Democrat base to get out there and support the other candidates. But I was never going to do it.
I think this whole TV thing has just been holding you back.
Yeah, let's go with that. But I was never going to do
Actually,
it. But I would
think
like
so
to get
too.
on the circuit and be that person that kind of rallies the base. And I think I could do that. I think I want to do that, and see how it plays out.
Have you ever thought of writing a memoir?
Many times I've had people ask me to write, and I'm never going to do that. I mean, for two reasons. One, I wouldn't even
Too
know.
many secrets?
Too many secrets.
Secrets?
As I've said, number one, I don't know how people do it. I wouldn't even know where to start. I wouldn't know how to write it. I write in short bursts. I write in a minute and a half, 2 minutes. I couldn't begin to write a chapter. But most importantly, if I did write a memoir, I would have to tell the truth. And if I told the truth, at the end, everybody dies, especially me. And I'm taking that to the grave, and I'm not going to burn my friends, and I'm not going to kill myself in the process. I had a boss, Mike Devlin, my general manager at the station, and he just was adamant that I write a book. And but I'll never write the book. There's
But I still
there's no
think
book.
the memoir
There's
of
no
your
book.
Thank God for Kids and how you came up,
Yeah.
you came up with each
Yeah,
subject and each story, I think would be wonderful.
The closest we came, after the Michael Sam commentary, I had a publisher contact me, and they wanted to run all my commentaries. And they had done a little homework and realized that prior to Michael Sam, there were some good commentaries that people just weren't quite aware of. And then I said, yeah. And then they said, what you could do, write a little prologue, I think that's what you call it, as to how you came to that commentary, and then write an epilogue as to what was the reaction to it. And I thought, well, that'd be pretty good. That'd be a little bathroom book to read or something, you know. And some people think that's about what it would be worth. But I thought it'd be a good little, and then take all these commentaries, and then I would write an intro as to this was what led to that, and then this is what happened after I wrote it. And I thought it'd be a very good book.
That would be
And
good.
so I said, yeah, we'll do that. And I got people at the station all excited about, yeah, they'll help me pull it together. And I said, how many do you want? And they said, well, maybe could you do 15? I said, easy, I can do 15. About the time we're ready to close, or what I thought was to close on this deal, the woman says to me, we're going to need 20 new commentaries from you. And I said, I'm sorry, what? She goes, well, we got to have some fresh commentaries. And I said, well, no, you said this was the history of all my old ones. She goes, yeah, but we're going to need 20 new ones. I said, I can't write 20 new ones. I don't write that way. The great thing that Channel 8 allowed me to do was I only write commentaries when I felt compelled to write them. I have the greatest respect in the world for people who write every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. I don't know how you do that. I cannot write on command.
You are right.
I write, oh man, I can't believe so-and-so said that, did this. I'm now going to write about it, and it just flows. It takes, seriously, as she knows, almost every single commentary I've ever written maybe took me 15 minutes.
And sometimes he wakes up in the middle of the night and
That's
thinks
what I
of
was.
it.
Yes,
Yeah.
me
Had that
too.
happen.
Me
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
And speaking of that, waking up in the middle of the night and just having to write something. When I taught at Waxahachie High School, whenever a teacher would retire or we'd have a party or honor somebody, I would write a poem. So the other night, after I've been researching Dale and Chris, I was laying down and it just kept coming in my head and coming in my head. So I wrote a poem that I want to share. Is that okay?
About
Absolutely.
us?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
You probably thought these were my notes for this.
Those are all your questions.
No, this is a little poem that I wrote for, well, it's titled Dale. And it's after researching Dale, this is my summary. So I hope you enjoy it. Over the years, I've watched and admired you. I don't know why anyone would have fired you. Writing to get people's attention on what most want to go unmentioned. He tells it like it is and doesn't care much about the showbiz. Standing tall for the small, he speaks of the rise and the fall. From his thoughts to the pen, he writes on the fault of men. With passion pouring like purple rain, some say he should stay in his lane. Writing, he shares his voice. To sit silent is not a choice. He loves sports and remembers being a boy, and he sure does love that cowboy Troy. A boy named Dale from Iowa, a little town called Logan, seems to be his life slogan. He stands for those that kneel and uses his platform to help us heal. It's obvious to a small town farm girl like me that he writes and speaks what he sees. I've only known 2 men that spoke such truth. My daddy at the pulpit to a congregation, and Dale Hansen at the television station. From 13 weeks to 38 years, WFAA Channel 8 has become so dear. The nightly banter between Dale and Pete is a combination that can't be beat. The Dale Hansen Sports Special is just that. It's not always batters, balls, and bats. He has a love of all that is game and sport, but more importantly, he brings us what is off the court. When investigating SMU, he kept truth shining through. Then Switzer swinging at him in '94 kept us all wanting more. Discrimination, protests, free speech, and oppression, doubting his conviction is never a question. Numerous awards and recognition he has received because he writes about what he grieves. His best friend, who was only 18, lost in a war beyond cruel and mean. Feeling certain that Dale has made him proud may help him find peace when he sees the clouds. His precious Miss Haley, the basset hound, when we heard about her, many tears hit the ground. Current events and hot issues and even tears that need a tissue. Writing and speaking about humanity may have kept some from losing their sanity. His number 1 is Michael Sam. He said, "I found out who I am." Dale held us all accountable, and the response was insurmountable. He was a guest on the Ellen Show, and North Texas was like, whoa. He's become nationally known from his words, from the words his heart has shown. He says the lovely Mrs. Hanson is the reason for his success. He is right. Her love and support is why he's the best. His love is sports and hers is horses. But what a powerful couple when they join forces. She is genuine, wise, and the reason he gives for living. Her faithfulness to lift him up is her way of giving. So according to Dale, we have her to thank, because without her, his page would be blank. What will we do without his words to make sure everyone gets heard? We can remember this sportscaster and his fight and keep standing up for what is right. So when you get down on your knees tonight to thank the Lord for his guiding light, pray they turn out right. Thank God for kids and thank God for Dale.
Wow.
And thank God for Chris. I've said it 1,000 times.
Wow.
Everything that's beautiful, by the way.
You are so talented.
Seriously,
That is
I think
amazing.
that's the longest poem I've ever had written about me.
That's
Thank you, guys.
That is awesome. Here I'm crying. Why am I doing this? You're supposed
Well,
to
You got teary-eyed. I can
No, I
see
didn't.
it. Yes, you did.
I wasn't gonna read that until we were even off camera and we were finished. But when you kept saying
I
something
love
gets in your head, and I was
that.
researching
Yeah.
y'all, and that just kept. I was like, oh my gosh! I told Chris, I said I'm gonna have to write a poem.
You're so talented. That's
'cause I
Well,
write- thank
that's
you.
very nice. But
Thank
I've said it many times, but never enough. Everything I have, everything I've done, every place I've been, every check I've ever cashed, every dollar I've ever made, every great event I've ever covered, every great individual I've ever met, everything that I have accomplished in my life is because of this woman. None of it would have been possible.
And we now have it all on tape.
None of it would have been possible. Yeah, and now we have it on tape, and I just realized
be a rich woman.
this is really bad because now I know for
Now
a
we do have it
fact
on
your
tape.
lawyer's going to play that back someday, and I'm going to be stuck.
And he's retired in 2
Yeah,
months.
and I will become officially half the man that I used to be. You know, so.
Okay, one of the very last things is I watched, you did Heroes on the Water last year
Yeah,
with
yeah,
the Mount
yeah.
Rushmore of sports
Yeah,
people, and
yeah,
you
yeah.
asked them a question at the end, and I thought, well, I'm going to ask him that. I'm going to
Yes.
ask he and Chris that. If you could, with the sports people, it was play or be, with one
Yeah,
person,
yeah.
who would you want to play with? So for Dale, if you could talk or interview or be with one person, whether they're dead or alive now,
Oh, wow.
who would it be?
Well, it's funny.
That's a good question.
Yeah, it's a very good question, but I've been fortunate enough to have interviewed most of the people that I would put on that list. So now I'm down to Rod Stewart. I would. You knew that was coming, right?
I was hoping you'd say that.
I'm fascinated by Rod Stewart. I've always been fascinated by Rod Stewart.
We have a dog named Stewart.
We have a
after
dog
Rod
named Stewart. But, I think I love the way he sings. I love it. I've already got it in my funeral arrangement plans. There'll be 3 songs played by Rod Stewart. His version, I think it's Sam Cooke originally, but We're Having a Party by Rod Stewart. Then in the middle, which is I think somewhat perfectly describes me, Some Men Have All the Luck, which is one of my favorite songs. And then as people are leaving, it will be Bob Dylan's song, but I want Rod Stewart's version so people can understand the words to Forever Young. And those 3 songs will be played.
I just got that.
Yeah. And I mean, I like Bob Dylan too, but then everybody would be leaving my funeral. I'm sorry, what was that again? I didn't quite catch that. And I'm fascinated. I mean, I've met Mr. Obama, I've met Jack Nicklaus, I've met Arnold Palmer, I've met Mickey Mantle, Roger Staubach, Tom Landry. I mean, I've been blessed. I've been blessed, and.
But you haven't met Rod
But yeah,
yet.
we've seen him in concert
Every time he's here.
6, 7 times at least. We go nuts. She goes even nuttier than I do. And one time, a buddy of mine was going to set it up. We were going to get to go backstage and meet him, but he wasn't feeling well, and it fell through. And so that's still kind of sitting out there on my bucket list.
We know each other so well because that's what I thought you were going to say. Now, who do you think I would say?
Who you would say?
Yes, who I would say I'd want to meet. You've got to know this. You've got to know this.
Well, what did you say? I was going to say Patrick Swayze or Rob Lowe, but
well, those are good. Yeah, no, those are all good. Or
I'm assuming Don King,
Kurt Russell,
or Kurt Russell. Of course. Oh, now you mean yeah.
Kurt Russell. Well, like I said, there's 3: Patrick Swayze, Kurt Russell, or they're all. Or Rob Lowe, I think, is just great too.
And you did get to meet Kevin Costner.
Yes, and Kevin Costner.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, we got to tell that story.
Oh, my.
Because it was the Ellen Show, and we were on the Ellen Show. He was on the
I
Ellen Show.
met Kevin Costner in 1992, and he's the most staggeringly gorgeous man I think I've ever laid eyes on.
I agree.
He's staggeringly gorgeous. So we were at the sideline in San Francisco at the NFC Championship game. Pat Summerall calls me over to meet Kevin Costner. So this was like 30-some years ago. Staggering. I walk over. I'm kind of a little nervous. I'm like,
well, you were staggering at the time, too.
Well, I was. And I walk up, and I said, and he said, "Hi, Dale, I'm Kevin Costner." And I looked at him. I said, I love all your movies, And she, for whatever reason, has never let me forget that. So every time we're watching Yellowstone or one of his...
That's the only thing you could think of to say is, I love all your movies.
So, and he's got 100 movies and everything. And so every time he pops up on our screen or something, she's like, "Hey, Dale, Kevin Costner's on, and I know you love all his movies." So now we're at the Ellen Show. Kevin Costner's on the show. He wants to meet me because of the Michael Sand commentary. We're walking downstairs to meet him. I look at her, and I said, "Listen, this man is staggeringly good looking. Try to stay calm. Please don't embarrass me." And she goes, "Well, maybe I'll just walk in and go, 'I love all your movies.'" I'm like, "Okay, you got me." We walk in. Here comes Kevin Costner.
I mean, he comes out of the doorway, and I'm just like, my mouth drops open.
Right.
It's like, he is
he's
gorgeous.
He's gorgeous.
And then
what did you say?
He was just as
So when you met him, what did you say?
"I love all your movies." I could not figure out what to say. I'm just like going, "I love all your movies."
And I started howling.
And I think that's the only thing I said to him the whole time. I just stared at him the whole time.
Kevin Costner looks at me and he's like, "Well," I said, no. I said, "Forgive me." I said, so then I tell him the story. And his whole entourage is there. Kevin's laughing. His whole entourage is laughing. And Chris is just like, "No, I really do love all your movies."
Whole time. But I mean, this man, not only is he good looking.
Oh my gosh.
He was as nice as he is good looking. And I mean, we'd still be standing there talking to him. Dale, we're the one that said, we have to go catch a flight. We have to leave.
I looked at him.
He would have talked to us forever.
After she said that, and I explained to him why I was laughing so hard, I then looked at him. I said, "I really do enjoy your movies."
Just so friendly.
And then we walk out, and we get outside the door, and she just looks up at me, and she goes, "I am so embarrassed." I said, Don't worry about it, baby. That's going to fill 19 more shows for me.
He tells that.
when they ask
He just
it.
told that story on a radio interview the other day. So I did tell him. I said, "You can tell that story because now you're telling it all the time." So,
I mean,
Yeah.
the comedic timing of it could not have been better. Right outside the door, she's making fun of me for maybe I'll just walk in and say, I love all your movies.
and that's all I could think of was like, "Oh, I love it."
And you've also got to meet President Obama.
Yes.
Well, that's another great
Yeah,
story.
Dale went to Washington to get this huge award.
Yeah, that was very nice. Ron Kirk, the former Dallas mayor, set it up for us, obviously. It was just like, it was everything I wanted it to be.
In his office.
Everything I wanted it to be. He comes in, he's doing the, everybody from Texas here. Everybody, I
Dale
can't.
sat in a
I can't do
chair,
it.
and I sat on the couch. He sat to my
You sat
left
right
on
next
the
to him.
couch. Yeah, I sat right next to him on the couch.
But we're talking to him, and this is my other favorite part, with her again. We're sitting there,
He was
and
so
I don't.
comfortable to talk
Oh,
to.
he was unbelievable. He's
So
unbelievable.
comfortable.
So I asked the question that I've always wanted to ask him: is that, do you lie in bed at night and think about the fact that, say, 200 years from today, if America's still going strong, that kids will be learning about you in classrooms 200 years from today? And that just, I don't know, it just blows my mind that I'm sitting here talking to a man that kids will be learning about, whether you agree or disagree or like his politics, whatever it is. This man will be on the national stage 200 years from today. And I then say that to him, and he starts into this long spiel about, hey, I'm just a guy. He said, I'm not so humble that I don't realize the impact that my election meant to a lot of people. But I'm just a guy. I still hang out with my friends. My best friend, is a plant manager in California. My second best friend is a car salesman in Honolulu, whatever. And he starts listening through it. He goes, I'm just a father with 2 daughters and hope that, and he says, so at the end of the day, I'm just a guy. And Chris puts her arm around him. She goes, you really are just a guy.
I put my hand on his leg and I go, you are just a guy. I go,
And I'm sitting there like, I think they're going to shoot her, And I'm like,
he was.
baby. I said, he's not just a guy.
he was so.
And he laughed.
I think Dale was the one. Dale sitting in the chair, and Dale was starstruck. I could just tell.
Oh, I was
Dale
starstruck.
was
I don't
kind of
deny
like
it.
I was with Kevin Costner. Dale was kind of like,
Well,
wow,
here's the
wow.
thing.
And he was just so.
So he's telling me,
comfortable.
I've got to give this acceptance speech for the award tonight. And this is the way he goes, now listen, little choke in the throat. Little choke in the throat's a good thing. Don't be up there bawling now. Don't start sobbing up there on that stage. But hey, little choke in the throat. Little choke in the throat. But here's the payoff to this whole deal. So like at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, we're sitting there with former President Barack Obama. Then an hour and a half later, I'm sitting there talking to Stormy Daniels.
Oh, yeah.
And Stormy Daniels wanted to meet me. And she didn't want to meet Stormy Daniels.
I do not
so
care to meet
I
Stormy.
go downstairs and I meet Stormy Daniels. Now, President Obama, Stormy Daniels. And then, as I've told people ever since, being from such a conservative, red, Republican, religious state, if people found out that I'm having that meeting, I could be in a lot of trouble. So I did the only thing I could, and I paid Obama $130,000 not to tell anybody about it.
Bye-bye.
It's a
Bye-bye.
Da-da-ding,
It's a
da-da-da-ding, da-da-da-ding.
Well, thank you both so much for talking to me and taking time out of your day. I know that y'all are busy and getting
Oh,
ready.
very busy,
getting
incredibly
ready.
busy.
And
Are we busy?
Yeah, we're really
One more quick question.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourselves, and I'll just ask this as a couple question, 5 years from now?
Uh-oh.
Dead.
Oh, gosh.
not me.
You can't,
No.
you can't
I'm
take the
much
easy
younger
way
than
out.
Yeah.
I'm much younger than you
You can't
are.
take the easy way out.
No, 5 years from today, I think hopefully we'll be right here. Hopefully. I really am on a day-to-day basis. But I think I do want and think we're both going to do a lot of traveling.
We
We
hope
haven't
to
had
travel.
time,
Yes. When he goes to speak, you're
Short
going to have to
trip.
travel with him.
Well, as long as we have somebody take care of the horses, like I said, now's the time when we do have somebody is to do a little bit of traveling and.
But you know, this is really crazy, but there's two things I really want to do. I want to have Thanksgiving dinner with a whole bunch of family members, because I haven't done that in over 40 years, because I'm always working on Thanksgiving. Wow. It is the only minor regret that I always had. My mom used to be the host of a ridiculous Thanksgiving reunion every year, and I was the only one never there. And she would call, and I could never seem to get it through her head. No, I'm not coming. I'm working. It's the Cowboys' day, and I've got to be there. And yet she would ask every year, well, could you guys come back for Thanksgiving? So there's a part of me that would kind of like to have a big reunion one old time just to see how it goes for Thanksgiving. And as strange as this is, I want to go to dinner on Friday night with my friends, because I've never been able to go to dinner on Friday nights. And it was always Saturday night, which is fine. But then for the longest time, if I went out on a Saturday night, I had to get up and go back to work on Sunday.
But still, even a Wednesday or Thursday.
Or
night.
even
You
a
don't
Wednesday
have
or
to go
Thursday.
On a Friday.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to the freedom of it.
The one thing that was funny, because Dale never helps me take out the trash. I have my little vehicle and pile it full of trash, so we have to take it out to the front gate. So one night I said, would you please help me? Because Aaron and Mike were gone, so we filled up the deal with trash. We go out there, I go, you know what? Every Wednesday night we can make a date of this. We can take the trash out together.
Yeah, so
when you retire, every Wednesday night we'll take the trash out together.
So we're going to have date night. Date night, we'll be taking trash. So I said, I'll do it. So we took the trash out. I went walking to the garage. She locked the door behind me and said, my work here is done. No. I mean, I'm like, so.
Thank y'all both so much.
It'll be fun.
Well, thank you.
I think it'll be great.
And I want a copy of that poem.
Oh, I'll get that
was
to
very
you.
nice.
I think the best is yet to come. I really do. I think TV's been holding you back.
We'll see.